Hello. This is the secret sauce to embodying your human design. The thing that is missing in a lot of human design teachings that actually limits you from experiencing the promise of your satisfaction, of your success when embodying your human design. Spoiler alert, nothing that I'm sharing with you is actually new information to you. And I'm speaking into the version of you who already knows all of this, has already touched and experienced her flow state, has that trial and error wisdom, and has that experience of knowing what it's like to be in her flow and then also touch out of it sometimes. And I've always said that human design is a tool for deconditioning. Because once you're in the flow, once you're in your flow, once you're in your alignment, unless you're a human design reader, like human design is not even relevant because you're in the moment, you're in your body, you're in your experience, you're in love, you're in your relationships. And human design, this mental construct, just kind of dissolves. It's unnecessary. I've always seen human design as a tool for when we're in our not self, when we dip down into the conditioning, the karma that we came here with, that we learned through our families, that we learned through our societies, we learned from cultural expectations. When we dip into those realms and those experiences, we're dancing in programming that's not aligned with us and expectations that's not aligned with us. Human design is so beneficial in those moments as like training wheels to come back into your alignment, to come back into your individuation. Human design is known as the science of differentiation, the science of our unique frequency, of what makes our path, our golden path, the path that's never been created or walked before. And it's in that path that your gifts, your channels, your incarnation cross, the alignment of your incarnation cross, the exaltation of your human design blueprint is just a natural thing. You don't even need to think about it. You don't need to activate anything from your mind or like initiate any personality from your mind because you're like, oh, I'm a 3/5, so I should do this right now. That's just irrelevant. So human design is really for the moments in life where there's a little stuckness. Look at your not self, your specific not self based on your aura type. Frustration for generators, manifesting generators. When energy is stuck, it's not moving forward. It's this feeling of you just keep banging your head against a wall. Generators and manifesting generators have this sacral energy that just wants to build and create the world around them through the Maya, through the material world, like building things up, being engaged in the physical reality, creating the physical reality. So when that energy, that life force energy, that creative energy, that's the sacral energy, right? It's also the energy that creates life. Human beings, when that creative energy is stuck and it's not flowing forward through your specific genius, through your specific channel, we fall into the spectrum of our frequency, into the not self, into the frustration. And that frustration can be a very dense, confusing place. So, what I really want to share with you today about the secret sauce of what's missing in our human design, or how to actually reap the benefits of human design. Is understanding the nuances to the density of our not self. How to actually untangle from programs, conditioning, societal expectations, expectations from our family, from our friends, and most importantly, trauma. Trauma is not necessarily the event that happened that causes fear or the feeling of like stuckness, or the fear to move forward and try again. It's not the thing that happened, but it's the way that our nervous system and our body holds the shape of the consequence of that thing that happened. Let me share with you an example. I felt frustrated in my creative energy, in my transmission, in my confidence in like sharing more about my wisdom and my teachings, etc. Because I saw a specific coach that I had been mentored from get like annihilated on Reddit and get super canceled. And that experience for me, seeing that happen to someone that I was really close to and related to a lot, seeing that happen put my body in a state of trauma for like a year and a half, where it was almost as if it happened to me, because I saw it and it impacted me so much that then all of a sudden my nervous system and my body took this shape. My body took the shape of freeze. It's not safe to move forward. It's not safe to expand. It's not safe to continue to take up space. It's not safe to keep going in this direction. So my body went into this freeze mode as I observed all of that was happening and related to it. So this is an example. It wasn't like direct conditioning. It wasn't someone telling me you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. It was something that I witnessed, you know? You know how they talk about in developmental psychology, like even if a child witnesses her parents fighting or something, you know, something happening in a movie, it was like my brain didn't differentiate what was happening to someone else versus what was happening to me. And I take full responsibility for my response to that experience. There was obviously a lot that I needed to learn from that. And I'm not a victim to like witnessing that or even to her coaching by any means. Like I'm only taking that as learning lessons and ways to embody more of my authenticity and integrity. It showed me a lot about myself, and I'm really grateful for that. But you can see here that this was a subtle, like less talked about way of conditioning. It was something that happened to someone else, but my body responded. My nervous system responded and took a very specific shape. If you watched my last video, we talked about somatic shaping and how our shaping holds our behaviors and our patterns, our thoughts and our emotions, all of the things that are associated when we get triggered. So when my energy started to get frustrated and I fell along the spectrum of the not self, and no matter how much mentally I tried to pep myself up, remind myself I'm a 3-5, that I'm meant to go through trial and error, remind myself of my channels, remind myself of my incarnation cross, the right angle cross of penetration, remind myself of my definition. You know, no matter how much I could just remind myself mentally of what my gifts are, of my alignment in human design, what actually has helped me get out of that conditioning and out of that freeze is through somatic pattern recognition. Human design is all about patterns. deconditioning, deprogramming is all about patterns. It's the way that our body takes a certain shape in relationship to our external world, in relationship to our relationships, and to money, and to our dreams, and to the world around us. This programming is a series of shapes that we take to try and keep ourselves safe, to try and keep ourselves connected, to try and keep ourselves safe in what we know or what society has told us works. So breaking out of these shapes, these patterns of smallness, hiding, playing it safe, not being perceived as an outsider, not breaking out of the pattern. In order to actually get out of those experiences, the not self, you have to recognize how much that shape is controlling all your little triggers, and is there ready to take shape during all of your little triggers and all of the little moments throughout your life, throughout your day, that you're expected to behave in that shape. So it's through somatic experiencing that you get to get a snapshot of the whole complex and the whole psyche and your whole world that's happening in the moment of that trigger. That when you feel too afraid to step outside of the box, to try something new, to step out and fail, when you're too afraid to take on a new shape outside of that, this is what deconditioning actually is. It's just taking on a new shape outside of the flow of the mainstream, or the flow of your existing reality, that's like keeping you in this like safe little paradigm, safe, predictable, right? It's like a safe, predictable paradigm. Stepping out of that paradigm requires a new shape in the moment of the parameters, meeting the parameters or the edges of that paradigm, aka a trigger. Because when you keep reacting in the same loops with your triggers, you keep reinforcing that karma or that spiral within that paradigm. So taking on a new shape requires so much awareness. So for me, it wasn't until I really started to learn, receive somatic trauma healing for this shape, this frozen shape, this fear of being judged, fear of being ostracized, fear of being misunderstood. It wasn't until I really dove into the whole complex in my psyche, in the way that my body was really just trying to keep me safe. Because behind that shape, that protector shape, because that freeze mode was really just trying to protect me, right? That freeze mode is really just trying to protect you from doing something that in the past registered as not safe. Like on the verge of death. So human design doesn't really include the more in-depth nuances of deconditioning in the moment, shifting out of a pattern through this process of pattern recognition, awareness, building the muscle of awareness, and then slowly titrating into a different pattern, into a different shape. Slowly creating safety back in the flow of your expansion beyond your freeze, beyond your trauma response, beyond your fear. Slowly showing yourself that even if you do start to step out of those patterns and differentiate, remember, human design is a science of differentiation. When you slowly differentiate, you can create resiliency. When you create resiliency and you keep titrating and you keep pushing your edge just a little bit and expose yourself to the very thing that you're so afraid of, and little by little create safety in that experience, you start to wake up as a creator, as the creator of your reality. You start to regain your life force. Your life force is there waiting for you outside of those frozen shapes. You start to regain your creativity, your inspiration. Especially if you're a generator, a manifesting generator, your aura starts to glow when you're back re-engaging with your path of differentiation outside of the shapes of your trauma. One caveat here is that a lot of trauma has the physiological response of dissociation, the survival response of dissociation. So this is why working with a somatic practitioner to help keep you in your body and call out the subtleties of where you start to deflect or dissociate or go into a trauma response, which keeps the trauma happening instead of actually trauma metabolizing, digesting that energy through your system, starting to create the space to move forward outside of that shape. It's like once it's digested, you like kind of start to see it as a external pattern that was coming in, keeping you safe. You can send that appreciation, gratitude even. But you start to observe it and it's no longer fully taken over your state of consciousness where there's nothing else. So this is why it's really helpful to work with a somatic practitioner to hold you accountable during your process so that you don't just go into a state of dissociation, and to keep you accountable for that titration process outside of the small shape and outside of the small pattern. So as I was saying, for generators and manifesting generators, sacral beings, getting out of that frozen, fearful, stuck energy is a completely different shape. Even right now, I'm wondering if you can feel it, if you can feel yourself beyond your frozen, stuck pattern. You know what your frozen, stuck pattern is. You know exactly what it is. You're very familiar with it. And I know you, you're smart, you're intelligent, you've been doing the work and you know this pattern, but some of you are just missing this key piece of how to do this pattern recognition of our trauma and of our conditioning. And it's a very simple formula. It's not easy to do because it requires a lot of processing undigested energy, and that's challenging. It's hard. going into the depths and feeling the things that you were too afraid to feel. So you created a trauma response to so that you didn't have to feel it, to keep you safe from feeling that, right? So you know what your limiting, frustrating shape is. Maybe it's in your relationship, a codependent shape, a people-pleasing shape where you're always prioritizing somebody else over you. Maybe it's in your creativity, in your passion, in the work that you're here to do in this world. Maybe it's in your health. You know, wherever it is that you're playing small. There's a whole world in that shape. A series of events accumulated that have confirmed it and validated it and made it seem like it's valid and that it should be there and it's keeping you safe. So it should be there and it should keep being there. It's very intelligent. There's many mechanisms around it, surrounding this shape, that are trying to keep it in place. There's a lot of fear surrounding this, that if I did just break out of this codependent pattern, this people-pleasing pattern, what if they start getting mad at me again? What if they start hurting me again? What if they start doing this thing that really hurts me again? The people-pleasing is there for a reason, right? Like it seems like it's all there, like it's all padded in there, booby-trapped in there, even by the fear, the consequences, you know? The fear of being canceled, fear of being ostracized, the fear of being like burned at the stake, fear of being made fun of. Yeah, by not trying, by not putting yourself out there, by staying small and quiet, you don't have to deal with those scary people on Reddit or those scary people in the comment section. Seems like that shape is really actually a good thing, because everywhere I look, there's people getting canceled, there's people getting ridiculed, there's people dropping like flies because of it. So this shape, this protector shape, is good. Can you see how it like convinces you that it's like doing you a service? There's all this fear surrounding it. There's still so much undigested emotions that have not been felt, experienced, because when you move through the cycle of that trauma and you let that trauma metabolize in the way that it's naturally supposed to, you give it the space and the safety to move through your nervous system. You'll see that there's a third way. It's not like black and white. Either you stay stuck and frozen and safe, or you put yourself out there and you're burned at the stake. Your trauma wants you to think that it's just one or the other. It's not. That whole complex, that whole duality, your awareness builds and you become aware of that dynamic. And you kind of just like grow beyond it, and you're like, there's a middle way here. Your awareness grows. You become more mature. You start to take responsibility for yourself. You start to build that resiliency. And like I said, when you're back engaging with your creative energy outside of your frozen patterns, Your aura expands. The people in your fractal, the people who are meant to receive from you, can hear your signal, because your aura isn't, your energy isn't all shriveled up. The people in your fractal can hear you, can connect with you. You can connect with them where you're meant to serve. Life starts to become more simple, more fluid, more of like feeling like a game. You know all of this. None of this is new information to you. This message is only a reminder to support you in taking that next step and re-engaging with your flow, re-engaging with your individuation process, re-engaging with your artistry. That feels like that's it. That feels like it. I'd love to hear how this message lands for you. And stay tuned. I'll keep sending out these messages and these frequencies. Yeah, it's my pleasure.